everyone, how's it going? Welcome back. Today we are going to be transplanting the broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower that we started in our hydroponic systems a few weeks ago into some bigger containers. So these right here are my iDo 12 pod hydroponic systems. This is the 4-liter and this is the 6.5 liter. I just removed the light bar off of these so that we can see the plants a little bit better. And in this system, the 6.5, we planted this one up a few weeks before we planted this one up. So obviously these plants are much bigger. Let me show you this cabbage plant real quick. First of all, the roots look amazing. But look at that. That's a nice size little cabbage plant growing there. So these ones are a little bit further along than these ones. I'll show you what these look like. They still look really healthy, the root system is great, but these just aren't quite as far along as this one, but it's still a perfect time to go ahead and repot these. I could keep these in here for a few more weeks, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and up-pot them now because I'm going to be using these systems to be starting some tomatoes and some peppers really soon. So I want to get these emptied out so I can start more seeds in them. So before we start repotting these, I want to go over just a few things about repotting before we get into it. So the first thing is our soil. Now this is just a regular old potting mix that I picked up from my local Walmart. This is readily available. Any kind of potting mix or potting soil is great for this. You want to stay away from something that's called garden soil though. Garden soil is a much more dense soil and it just isn't the best for planting in containers. So you want to make sure that you find a potting mix. It's just a lot lighter and is better for your plants. So I have my soil mix here. I am also going to need some containers to pot these up in. So these right here are what I like to use. These are little 4-inch containers. You usually get these from garden centers when you buy your annuals for the season, like your supertunias, pansies, things like that. So I like to save my containers that I buy throughout the year and save them for seed starting. But you can also just use some plastic cups like these. These ones are obviously used, they're dirty. And if you are going to just use some plastic cups, which work completely fine, all you want to do is poke a couple of drain holes in the bottom of your cups. That way you make sure that your cups are draining okay and your plants aren't getting too much water. So once you have your containers picked out, the last thing that you kind of want to think about is what you're going to set your containers on. Now I have a couple of things that I use. I use an old pan. You can recycle an old pan and you're going to just set your pots down inside here. That way your pots have something to drain into and then it won't go all over your floor. It also makes it super easy for when you start taking these outside. You can just pick up the whole tray and take it outside. You can use something like a Tupperware bin that you can set your pots down inside of, just like this. Or if you have big seed starting trays like these, you can pop the seed starting tray part out. Set that over there. And this tray right here is perfect for setting your pots inside of also. So you can just put your pots in right like that. The water will drain into the bottom and then you can carry an even bigger tray of plants outside. Okay, so we got our garden soil, we got our pots that we're going to use, we got the trays that we're going to set our pots in so that we can water them. Now it's time to get started repotting these things. So what I like to do is similar to what I do whenever I do my seed starting. I like to take a big bowl and dump some soil into this bowl and just pre-moisten the soil a little bit. I find that potting soil and seed starting mix and all of those things are super dry. Now sometimes you might pick up those big bags of potting soil mix and they'll be laying outside and they may have gotten rained on or snowed on or whatever it is and they have moisture inside of them. If that's the case and your soil is already damp or wet, this step is not necessary. This is just whenever you get potting soil that's very dry. I like to moisten mine a little bit because kind of what happens sometimes is the soil can become hydrophobic, which means it actually repels the water. So if you've ever done any seed starting or upplanting before and you don't have moist soil to begin with, and you try to water it after you have planted up your things, you'll notice that the water kind of just like pools on top of the soil and runs off. That's what we want to avoid, because we actually want that water to soak down into our soil and to water our plants. And so it's important that we have some soil that can actually absorb the water and not just have it run off. So what I'm going to do is just take my watering can here and pour a little bit of water in. Now this potting soil is not as dry as the seed starting soil is, so I don't need to add as much, but what I like to look for is a consistency where I can squeeze the soil together and it holds its form, but it doesn't have water running out of it, so I can't squeeze like any drops of water out of it. I just like it to have some good moisture to it. So you definitely don't want this sopping wet. You just want it to be nice and hydrated. Okay, so here's my soil. It's holding together fairly well. I don't know, it's still kind of falling apart a little bit, but I feel like it's probably good enough. Okay, so what I like to do is just fill up my container with some soil and make a big hole in the center, okay? So I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I have a big hole here in the center where I just squished the soil up along the sides of the pot. That's another reason why I like my soil to be a little wet. You can really mold it into whatever shape you need. And then we're going to go ahead and pull out our first plant. So this right here is a cauliflower plant, and I'm going to go ahead and take the sticker off. You can see up here on the top there's a sticker on this one, which some hydroponic systems come with. And we're going to go ahead and just take this sticker off like that so that we have our soil sponge exposed. And then I just very gently grab a hold of the plant and pull the basket down. And it just comes right off. See? And sometimes you will lose some roots. Some root systems on these plants are really big, and so it's really quite extensive, and when you pull it off, some of those roots do rip off. But really, I find that it really doesn't matter. They have such a good root system on them that they're fine. So then we're just going to take this little plant and we're going to put it in that hole that we made. Oh, I didn't quite make it deep enough. Hold on. These soil sponges are nice and long. I got to remember that. So we just go ahead and take that, put it down inside there, and then we can just pack soil in around that little plant. And it's super, super simple, guys. Like, honestly, I love seed starting in my hydroponic systems because they are so simple to seed start in, and they do a really good job, and they create a really nice, robust root system on the plants so that whenever I transplant them, I know they're going to be amazing. So there is our first little cauliflower plant. Actually, maybe I'm going to group these together because I need to keep these separate so I know what's what, because I'm not going to write all the names on them right now. So this is our first little cauliflower plant. And let me see if I can find one that has a really thick root system to show you how to pull that one out. Okay, so this one has a fairly thick root system on it. You guys can see that there. And I'm going to take the sticker off like I did last time. Just remove that so we're not getting stuck on anything. And just gently grab the plant and the basket and just gently pull. So here on this one, you can see that we lost a few little roots there. They're kind of just hanging on there, but look at the root system of this plant still. It's totally fine. It doesn't need any more roots than that. So we're going to take, same thing, take our pot, put it down in there, and pack soil around him. So we got all of the plants potted up. They look really good. Look at this cabbage plant. If that is not a commercial for starting your seeds in hydroponic systems, I don't know what is. So basically it was the same process the whole way through. Now that I have everything cleaned out of my hydroponic systems, they are sitting right back here on the counter, and I'm going to go ahead and wash all of these up and get them set for the next round of seed starting. And I just wanted to show you real quick, your baskets that you use to hold your soil sponges are perfectly fine when you are done pulling your seeds out. You don't need to cut these or break these in any way. All you do is simply pull them out like I showed you, and then we can wash these up and reuse them. The only thing that you're going to need to replace then are the soil sponges and of course whatever seeds you're going to want. So now that these are all potted up, I'm going to get them placed under some grow lights that I have in the living room, and I'm going to give them all a fresh drink of water. Even though we already moistened the soil, I want to make sure that these have a good drink of water. Any excess water will run out into the bottom of the tray that we're going to place these on, and I will dump that out if it's excessive. You don't really want to water them that much. If you water them so much that there's a whole bunch of water in the bottom of your tray, that's too much. You need to back off a little bit. But I will give these a drink and put them under those grow lights, and then they will grow on for the next couple of weeks until it's time to transfer these outside into the big garden. So a couple of pros and cons for starting your seeds in hydroponic systems. We'll start with the pros. Pros are that you don't have to worry about your seeds drying out and then therefore becoming non-viable. So with seed starting in traditional senses, you usually have to make sure that soil that you're using is staying a nice moist consistency and isn't drying out, because if that soil dries out at any point during the germination of the seed will die off. With a hydroponic system, it constantly has water, obviously, so you never have to worry about that. Secondly, starting your seeds in a hydroponic system, a big pro for me is that you don't need a separate lighting system. So because a hydroponic system has its own light bar, many of them also have their own fans, which help create stronger seedlings. All of that is all in one unit for you, and you don't need to worry about any of that. You don't need to worry about having another lighting system. You don't need to worry about keeping them moist. You don't need to worry about having a fan for them, because all of those things are in one place, which is really cool. So that's some of the pros that I love about seed starting in my system. Some of the cons, the only con that I can really think of is limited space. Because the systems are 12 pods, 6 pods, 7 pod, whatever your system is, that's how many plants you're going to be able to start. So that's kind of a con if you want to be doing like a whole bunch of seed starting and you want a lot of plants. That can be a little bit of a con, but I will say that because these plants germinate and grow so quickly in the hydroponic systems, you could probably do several batches out of one system. So say you start some seeds in your hydroponic system, they take, depending on what you're growing, between 2 to 5 days to germinate. At that point, then you want to give them about a week or so to grow on, and then you're going to be dealing with something about this size, which is perfectly fine to bump up into a larger pot and then start a new round of seeds. So if you want to use your seed starting system just for seed starting and then quickly bump things up into pots, you can absolutely do that. The only thing that I do want to mention with this is after I'm bumping my things up into these pots, I'm no longer able to use the lights from my lighting system. I have to have different grow lights. Another con that you could potentially look at as a con is the fact that you have to buy new soil sponges. But if you buy bulk packs of soil sponges, which I have shared before, and I will share the link to them in the description below again, I really find that between having to buy seed starting trays and soil and things like that, usually the price kind of evens itself out. It's really not that much more expensive to just buy soil sponges and start your seeds that way. Another pro that I forgot to mention earlier is the fact that hydroponic systems create amazing root systems in your plants. So because your plants are being watered from the bottom, it creates this really vast, beautiful, healthy root system that are reaching for the water down below, sucking up all those nutrients and moisture. And so for that very reason, hydroponic plants have a wonderful root system on them. And that is one of the reasons why I love starting my plants in hydroponic systems. I did some last year with some tomatoes and some peppers. They did great. So this year I really stepped up my game and have kind of diversified what I'm growing from my hydroponic systems so far. So far we've planted obviously the cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, but we've also done some herbs, kale and bok choy. So, and pretty soon we're going to be starting our summer garden, so tomatoes, peppers, more, all that kind of stuff. Also, if you watched last week's video, I am seed starting things in regular soil as well, so that I can kind of compare how my plants do that were started in the hydroponic system compared to regular seed starting methods. And I think that should be a really interesting comparison. So I hope this video was helpful, guys. I hope it was helpful to see how to transition your plants from your hydroponic system into pots. It's really quite an easy process, but I just wanted to make sure with that whole basket and getting the soil sponge out, it can kind of be like a scary thought ripping that soil sponge out of that plastic basket, and I've heard of some people even cutting the basket, and I just wanted to show you guys that that's not necessary, that the soil sponges will pull and all the roots will pull right through and it'll be totally fine, and just, yeah, show you guys exactly how this goes. So I will be giving you guys updates, of course. Always follow me on Instagram if you want more day-to-day updates. I do all kinds of stuff in my stories over there showing you guys how things are doing. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. I'll try to answer them. And I am going to be showing you guys in a few weeks how to transplant these out into the garden. So that is super exciting. It is getting so close. Beautiful weather is just around the corner. Anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome day. We'll see you in the next video.